here we are again on Going Beyond the Score. Now, for those watching the YouTube channel, I don't think Alli's driving, but I'm not sure. Where are you, Alli?
To clarify, I am definitely not driving, but I am outside of a drop zone because immediately following this podcast with Olivia, I am going to do some skydives tonight. So better, I just drove here and then now we're recording and then jumping.
It's amazing. Like I don't like we started this series like where in the world is Alli, and she's never disappointing, never disappointing. Um, I want to introduce our guest. She is actually a two-time. This is her second time on Disrupt Education, but first time on the series. Olivia Grace Barnes, 18 years old. You're old. I'm just kidding, Olivia. The founder of Black Life Blue World, and then you can go to blacklifeblueworld.com if you want to check that out. We'll put that in the notes. And last time she was working on her book, and it is now completed. It's called Overlapping Worlds, and explores how nature supports mental health of elite athletes. It's amazing. You can check that out on Amazon. She is an independent and self-directed learner. And Olivia, we cannot wait to see how you go beyond the score here and kind of pick up some things. So thank you so much for coming back with us.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Did I miss anything there on the introduction? Is there anything you want to add to that?
I think you pretty much hit the nail on the head. That was pretty good.
Nice, nice. So last time we talked, you were kind of in and out. I think you were actually just leaving a formal system again. And now, can you tell us where you are in your learning journey? Maybe give us a brief review of your learning journey and what you're doing now, because I know I got a lot of people in my network that are happy that you're doing this certain thing.
Yes. So starting with the brief overview, in high school, my first year of high school, I went to a public school, performing and visual arts school, and then dropped out the next year and decided to what I call self-design my learning. I took different classes at various institutions related to the things I was interested in. And then the following year, I decided to fully self-direct my learning. And so I stepped away from traditional structure of set classes and courses, and started reviewing and researching the things I was really interested in, which were art, nature, and athletics. And then in the spring of that next year, I had the opportunity to write a book, like Peter was talking about. And I wrote a book on how nature can play a role in strengthening the mental health of elite athletes, and then ended up publishing that in December of 2021. And then from there, I just continued on working, exploring my interests around art, which sort of transitioned into marketing and communication, nature and videography. And then this August, I started a program called Praxis, and it's amazing. So Praxis is a college alternative program. The first 6 months of the program are an opportunity to explore different areas of interest, gain skills in those different areas, do projects to prove your skill set, and then you go through a hiring process with different businesses partnered with the program. So I started in August, which is several days ago, like a couple weeks ago. But even though it's only week 3, I am amazed by how much I have already learned. I think it was the 3rd day of the program. We were required to create a project around a specific software that was supposed to help businesses with their customer success, customer service. And, I was working on the project and I was like, wow, it's day 3. Like in a traditional school environment, I might spend 6 months on a project. And in Praxis, it's day 3 and I'm already completing a project. So it was amazing to see how fast-paced it is and how applicable all the projects we do, how applicable they are to the real world and to businesses and organizations. So that is my educational experience in a nutshell and where I am right now.
Alli, she's only 18.
I mean, it's amazing. So I am not totally familiar with the alternative college program that's Praxis. So how did you come to find this? Why did you choose it over other options after your high school experience? Can you talk through that a little bit?
Yeah. So, in the fall of 2021, so like about a year ago, I sort of went through the same process as most seniors, looking for colleges and looking for next moves in my educational journey. I had heard about Praxis several months before through my dad. I think in one of his interviews, he interviewed someone from Praxis, so he learned about that program, that organization through that. But it wasn't really on my radar. I just thought typical next move of a high schooler is you go to college. And so I looked into colleges and things like that. But the more I was going through the application process, the more I realized that college has a very similar, not identical, but it's similar structure to high school in the sense that it's very traditional. Like all the applications, what's your GPA? What classes did you take? How well did you do on those classes? And so I realized that even though I was still exploring things that I wouldn't have been able to explore inside the classroom, and I was growing my skill set in things that I wouldn't have been able to grow inside the classroom, college was still looking at the traditional skill set that you get from high school. And so I started considering Praxis as a way to continue self-directing my learning and get into the workplace, I guess, without as much cost as college and more quickly. And it was really tricky for me because as a competitive swimmer, almost every single athlete I know goes to college and competes on the college team. So that was one of the only barriers I had when looking at Praxis, was how was I going to continue competing? But from an educational standpoint, it made so much sense, right? Like here's a program that it honors learning over grades. And it's just, it connected with me because it was, throughout my entire educational experience, I had been trying to take a road less traveled, trying to explore things that were around my interests. And so Praxis really just made sense. And so eventually I was talking to my coaches and things like that and figured out the whole swimming thing. And so after that, I was like, yeah, it makes sense why I would choose Praxis. So yeah, that's kind of like my decision-making process.
That's man, there's a lot of opportunity in there, right, Alli? Like we've been talking about the slow roll of education and how many of our students, many youth, obviously you're a very great example of that, Olivia, that we can move faster. And, I really like something I heard you say there, they honor learning over grades. That's amazing. Like that, to have that kind of clarity and that, knowledge mindset at this point in your life is pretty amazing. So, I mean, I'm gonna throw an underlying question here is asking you, well, if you're moving forward and you are a self-directed learner, what do you think the purpose is of school traditionally, and what do you think the purpose should be of school?
Yeah, so right now, the purpose of school is, high school is to get you into a college. And the purpose of college is to get you into a job. But the reason why that's flawed is that, so number one, for high school, people aren't really interested in learning. They're interested in grades, right? You want to get all A's, you want to do really high level classes, you want to go to all these clubs, do these volunteer activities so you can have a really great resume to present to college. There's a lot of issues in that, but for the sake of time, I'm going to move on to college. College is to help you get your first job. But one of the problems is that people graduate college, but they still don't have the experience. And people who are hiring are looking for the degrees, but more than that, they're looking for people who are going to add value to their organization. And so people coming out of college with no experience aren't really going to add value because they still need all that experience to build up to a place where they can add value to the organization. And so I think in a beautiful, perfect, ideal world, high school would be about learning, about exploring the things that you could be interested in, the things that you are interested in if you already know what you are interested in, going deep, finding out specifically what you want to do. And then college is to get hands-on experience in that area of interest. I think a lot of times I find it really sad with my classmates that a lot of them are going into college with this idea of what they're interested in, but they really haven't had any experience in that field. And the percentage of people who get a degree and don't do any work related to that degree is ridiculously high because people don't really have the space to explore. And so in a, at least for me, in a beautiful, perfect, ideal world of education, that's what it would look like. High school would be for exploring your interests, and college would be for getting experience in those interests.
It's really interesting what you said there. And, I see it a lot with former students who then go the traditional college route. And so I was a high school chemistry physics teacher, and, kids who take that class typically are your go-getters, your A students, the ones who are trying to get the grade. And they idolize certain fields, whether it's, friends or family influence, but they themselves, they really don't know if they will enjoy it. And so it's a long burn, right? Which is what you're kind of talking about in the traditional model, to study a subject for 4, 6, 8+ years before. And I mean, there are definitely opportunities to kind of like shadow or intern in that timeline, but before you're actually like full on doing the work, that's a lot of time, energy, resources to be putting into something that you don't even know if you're going to like outside of a year. Maybe a year into it, you're really kind of burnt out, or you're like, wow, this really isn't what I like. So how do you see, like, after these 6 months, right? So this alternative program that you're in, where does it go from there? Like, right, so you're in this intensive 6 months. Where does it then lead you? And then if you need more training, like, how do you kind of get that for people to kind of understand what you're doing versus the traditional model?
Yeah, so the program is a year-long program. The first 6 months are like basically preparation, go through a hiring process, you get a job. Second 6 months are within that job. I am not completely positive on this response just because I haven't done all my research around Praxis. But at the end of the 6 months, you can stay with the business you're working with. You can do something else, move on. I know several of my advisors, or one of my advisors, stayed with the business for a couple years and then transitioned into something else. And then your second question was around how to grow in terms of experience. Was that it?
Yeah, like, where does it like, where do you kind of see your learning go from here? Like, so you get this alternative schooling, and you start something and you like it, but then, like, where do you see that then continuing your growth? Like, is there more support within the Praxis, or how do you see your learning kind of journey continuing from this current year and beyond? It's just different, right? So that's what I'm curious, like, your thoughts on that.
Yeah. So the support of Praxis continues through the whole year with the individual cohort. And then after that, you have the network of the entire Praxis alumni and participants. For me, since I'm interested in marketing communication, I'm interested in how to use marketing communication to make a positive impact on the world of environmental conservation. It's probably my response probably changed a little bit since I last talked to you, Peter. But
pretty close. It's pretty close. I'll be honest.
Yeah. So this is where I'm really interested now. And so after the program, my sort of dream is to gain enough skills in marketing communication, do projects around environmental conservation outside of the work that I'm doing, so that I can approach a organization around conservation and say, hey, I have experience in this. I have a love for environmental conservation. I'd love to combine the two and help contribute to your organization. For other people, I think it's just engaging in the Praxis community and really using that network to gain more skills, find more experiences, find more opportunities, and this just sort of leveling up from there. I am pretty sure that my interests are going to shift a little. I mean, they're probably going to stay pretty same around nature and things like that, but they might shift a little bit. And I think that for me, that's where the Praxis community really comes in hand. It's the support in terms of like the emotional support, the guidance, the network support, the job support. Yeah, so that's sort of what happens after this year-long program ends.
Mm-hmm. I've actually followed a few through the entire process, and actually we're still connected. I feel like I'm like that weird uncle in Praxis, but I didn't go through the process. But I know there's a lot of writing, there's a lot of reflecting, which I think is something that we definitely, you go fast, you learn fast, but then you reflect deeply, right? Yeah. And it, I mean, day 3, come on, like you're like, go, right? I'm thinking about doing like, we're all in students in the traditional system tomorrow, and I might just do this in my entrepreneurship class just to, I want to see how many people freak out. But, there is like, obviously that first project probably wasn't perfect. There are probably a lot of problems with it, and then you reflect on it. But kind of to your point too, Alli, like a lot of the students, the participants will continue with the business for 1-2 years, and then they pivot because they have these skills that are applicable across the board. And like you said, Olivia, like, their ideas change, their where they're focusing changes. And then then it becomes you're learning on the job and making a difference. So it is interesting. So I wanted to ask then, in that first piece, like that first, all right, day 2, day 3, here's your project, go. What was the major learning piece? Now, you're already a self-starter, self-learning, and they're very selective. I mean, it's not easy to get into this program. It is not easy. I know that through talking to Cameron. But what was the main things out of that first thing? It was almost like, bam, wow, okay, so what was that a couple of learning moments or learning subjects that you learned on that first project?
Each month it's a different module. This module that I'm in now, each week is a different, we're exploring a different job type. So the 4 job types that they kind of offer are customer success, sales, marketing, and operations. And so week 1 was customer success. And they have an online platform where you can see all the projects that are going to be due later on. But I hadn't really looked at it. I was like, I think I was sort of still in the school mindset where it's like, yeah, we'll start and, we'll sort of meander for a while, and then we'll sort of start the ball rolling. The project that I was doing was around how to help organizations with their communication with their customers by creating a chat on their website to help them engage with their customers, just to provide that connection and just have an ease of communication. And so the platform I used was Zendesk, where it allows you to have different forms of communication all on one platform. So if you're chatting through Instagram or Facebook or email or text or on an online chat on your website, you can manage all those conversations with your customers on one platform. And so I was doing the project, and I was like, man, this is interesting. This is really fun. It's engaging, but I was like, wow, it's incredible. And I think I submitted my first draft, and they edit their feedback, or they send me their feedback, and I was like, yeah, okay, wow, that was not great. Let me try this again. Let me see if I can actually present something that is well presented and just can be used to help organizations. And at the end of it, I showed it to my dad, and he was like, wow, like you could literally send it to so I was doing a mock-up of a business in my neighborhood, and he was like, you could literally send this to the business right now and say, hey, this is something you could do to help your organization. Would love to talk more. And when he sort of said that, I started realizing, like, okay, like, yeah, I could. Like, this project that I have, I documented it on Loom. So I did a read through and talked about how to use the platform. This project that I have is like completely applicable. Like, I could go and help this organization. Like, that just blew my mind. And I was like, this is amazing. And so I've been doing a project every week. Last week was sales. I struggle with that a lot, but still learned a lot from that.
I mean, it's interesting because if I'm gonna decode kind of what you said there, is you've learned that there is real application to your learning, and maybe you're not really used to that.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. I don't know. What do you think, Alli?
That's what I was kind of thinking about as well when you were talking, Olivia, is, you know, part of this series is exploring missed opportunities, right? With learning, and the whole series is about going beyond the score, right? Beyond grades, beyond a numerical value on a piece of paper. So even in your short time, with this program, Olivia, how are you feeling like this program is connecting, the learning to, even though your dad pointed out that example, but like, how are you seeing how this is so different to connecting your learning to reality versus missed opportunities that you saw or experienced in your high school education? Does anything come to mind with that?
Yeah, yeah. So I would say, like what my dad said, the how it's a project that's applicable to the real world. Another thing is for me though, is that on the platform, since I'm in a cohort, we all communicate with one another and we all provide feedback to one another. So let's say I push my project, submit it. My cohort members can say, hey, this was really good. Here's something that I was a little confused about. Maybe you could reword this. And that for me it's experience I never had in school. In school, it was you write your paper or you do whatever and you submit it to the teacher grades it and gives it back to you. But here it's like a multiple step process. You submit a first draft, you get feedback from several different people. You submit a second draft, get feedback from different people. And I think that was a huge missed opportunity in school, because in school, it's almost like you have to be perfect on this one time. And if you're not, then, you get a bad grade or something like this. Here in this program, it's a lot more like life, where it's like, okay, we're going to redesign this. We're going to refine this. We're going to keep trying to make it better and better. It's not going to be perfect. That's okay. But let's see how we can do it, how we can edit this and shape this together to make it into a finished product that is well presented and just quality for whoever is watching it or reading it. And so I think, besides the point that my dad made, I think for me, one of the beautiful things about Praxis and one of the biggest missed opportunities in school is the peer review and evaluation and support during this whole process.
Why do you think that's not happening in schools? Well, I mean, I know that's a big question, but I just wanted to pick your brain on that.
I think, and this might be, I don't know. I'm going to say it, and this might not be true, but I think that in the educational system, teachers, educators, I don't know who is in charge of designing class structure, but I think that people, adults in general, think less of students. They don't think that they're as capable as they actually are. And I think sometimes students live up to that, right? They'll goof off, they won't finish their homework, they won't do well on tests and stuff. But for the most part, like, seeing the responses from my peers, we're all like around the same age, probably like 18 to maybe mid-20s, something like that. It's like, these people can do stuff. Like, they can comment, they can provide very valuable feedback, stuff that I would never have seen in my own work. And I think sometimes in a school environment, it's kind of like, oh yeah, you're not really ready to do that yet, student. This is the teacher's job. The teacher's job is to give the grades, it's to correct. Like, that's how about you just write this or just read this and we'll do that for you. And I think students are a lot more capable than I think teachers realize sometimes. And I think that's the beauty of Praxis, that it's really stretching us and letting us sort of step into that space where we can stretch and we can just explore how capable we actually are. Because in traditional environments, sometimes it can be a little bit restricting.
There's a lot there. So how did you see, we're really trying to get paint this picture of what learning education can look like, and your perspective is super valuable because, right, like you not only are in it right now, but you've been in the learner's seat through a wild time through the pandemic, right, which I feel like shifted things for everybody in different ways. So maybe your answer would have been different pre-pandemic. But in this kind of day and everything that you've went through, when you think of like an ideal learning model, space, educational system that, really gets at the heart of learning, nothing's off the table here, right? You can design whatever you want. What would it look like for you? And like, what do you think would benefit the most students based on stuff that you've heard your peers say? It doesn't have to be what you've done, but like when you think of like the best model, like from high school on, what comes to mind?
I really think that it's that kind of community aspect as well. Peers, engaging with peers. And one of the classes that I went to in my sophomore year of high school, I don't even know if you can call it sophomore year, crazy. But it was at a small private school, and we had a class. It was a literature class. We would read a book per week, and we would discuss it in class. And that was by far the most enjoyable class I think I have ever taken, because I was talking with my classmates and we were exploring things together. That's the beautiful thing about Praxis. And I think, there's two things that I really think that school can embrace. One is the community aspect and the just, I don't know, learning together aspect. I think sometimes schools can do some projects. Like I did some projects in school and stuff with other people, but it was very forced. Like, okay, 3 of you guys are gonna do a project. One person actually does all the work. They present it half-heartedly and they get an A or whatever. In this discussion class, we'd sit down. If you didn't read the book, you had to step out of class. But for the most part, everyone read the book. And the teacher would present a question. It would usually be a really deep question, like, why do you think this character made this decision, even though he knew it would result to X, Y, and Z? And we would read through the book. We would find different sections that would support the side that we were talking about, and we would discuss it. We would talk about it. Someone would bring up a point. Someone would say, okay, I see that, but what about this? And it was learning because you get to explore a diversity of ideas and opinions. There are times when I didn't handle discussions well because I was too single-minded and I was like, no, you're wrong. And there are times when other people, did the same. But it's that kind of environment that really develops a mature human, as opposed to a very individual, I don't know. It's a very individual approach that you can find in traditional school. And then the second thing I was going to say is that the ability to, or the freedom to get bored. I think I've said this before, and this is kind of my go-to phrase, but when I started self-directing my learning, I had so much freedom to get bored that I began to explore the things that I was really interested in. When I started self-directing my learning, I had a very different idea of what I wanted to do than what I do now, because now I've actually had a little bit of experience. I've explored some, I've talked to people, I've read books, and I'm like, okay, this actually makes more sense than whatever idea I had with no sort of frame of reference. So I think that would be the two things that school, in an ideal world, school would embrace, is this community, this learning together, and then just having space to get bored.
It's the line.
Yeah.
That's it.
Freedom to get bored.
That's right.
It's amazing. Hey, Alli, she's only 18. Like, this is not, I know that's the funny thing about it. The fact that I keep saying that is like, I shouldn't even say that. It doesn't matter, right? Like and you were years ago when you were on it before. So we need, and I say that kind of in a sarcastic way, because I feel like underneath everything you're saying here, Olivia, is like, it doesn't matter, right? We're closer than we think. And then moving forward on that. Wow. Freedom to get bored. There we go. I think we should close on that. I want to go get bored now. So, but Olivia, your book is called Overlapping Worlds. It is out on Amazon. We'll put the link in the notes as well. I cannot wait to see where you go, because I know it's going to be amazing places, and your learning journey is always, even from the short time that you were on before till now, there's been so much change, and I can see the learning, because it was before you wrote a book, after you wrote a book, and just somebody who loves learning. So thank you so much for sharing your journey with us, and we will continue to check in. So I appreciate you having you here on Disrupt Education.
Yeah, thank you so much.
All right.
Where can people find you?
Yes.
If they want to connect, give us all the deets. Tell us how people can follow you, and connect with you.
Yeah, so I'm on Instagram and LinkedIn. Instagram is O_Grace_B. LinkedIn is Olivia Grace Barnes. And then my website is blacklifeblueworld.com. So yeah, those are the 3 places where you can contact me, reach out to me, see what I'm doing.
Educators, parents, other students, learners, yeah, check her out. She's amazing. Again, thank you so much, Olivia, for hanging out with us today. Alli, we have no idea where you're going to be next week. We're trying to get her to do the podcast as she jumps out of the plane, but I guess she has to have like 500 jumps or something to do that. So, but thank you all for listening. We're going to continue to go beyond the score, and we appreciate you checking in on us at Disrupt Education.